It's a little piece that I wrote called Isolation Blues. Morning. Right, today's rant is brought to you by Greer Amps. None of that dog shit chocolate that I was promoting yesterday. A lot of you might wonder why I would be promoting guitar pedals at a time like this, but that's because guitar pedals are really, really important, even if you don't play guitar. But I think more important than that, even though they're an obsession of mine, for a start, Nick Greer, who makes Greer amps and pedals, is a fucking legend. But he's also one of these people in the world. I mean, I don't know his financial situation, obviously. I can have a pretty good guess. He's going to be one of these little businesses in the world that does what he does for love. You know, no one gets rich making guitar pedals, or much else for that matter, unless, you know, you're part of the evil 100 companies. But anyway, this is a non-political conversation. My choice of clothing is purely coincidental. But you know, there's a lot of people in terrible trouble at the moment financially. There's businesses that are not going out of business in the next 6 weeks. They're going out of business in the next 6 days. And as usual, I've got no solutions to that whatsoever. But think of these people, and you know, if you've got a few quid and you're banged up at home, and you thought, well, you know, it's not too late. Maybe I can become a rock star. Go buy some pedals, because they make you sound good even when you're shit. Right? You buy them, you sound like, you know, you're almost as good as Jimi Hendrix. You've got enough pedals. That's all it comes down to, really. It's not about skill or talent anymore. But I wanted to talk about, oh, for fuck's sake. I wanted to talk about enjoyment. Stop falling over. I wanted to talk about enjoyment and pleasure in the time of coronavirus, which is something that I've experienced myself. I mean, not all of it. I've had some pretty down days as well. But the ups and downs. And there's an interesting phenomena, right? I don't know how he wears this fucking hat. They're really itchy. There's an interesting phenomenon where a lot of people are kind of coming to me in an almost confessional way, going, "Yeah, I'm quite enjoying some of this. You know, it's gone all quiet. There's no planes and there's no traffic and the air's cleaner. I mean, there's fresh air well, not everywhere. I mean, I heard that over China, Google Earth, you know, you can see the whole of China where it used to be covered in smog. It's actually the exact opposite in Tottenham. In Tottenham, with Google Earth, you used to be able to see things quite clearly. Now, if you look on Google Earth, you can't actually see Tottenham at all. It's hidden beneath this dense fog of weed smoke, right? Because just everyone's smoking skunk. I mean, it's not unusual in Tottenham, but I think there's a little bit more weed smoking going on than usual. And why not? You know, well, because it will drive you fucking mad. That's my opinion, but like I said, non-political channel. What am I talking about today? But I'm talking about enjoyment, and it's a curious thing, this enjoyment. I've said this before. I enjoyed the vibe the week after Princess Diana died. I'm not glad she was dead, but I enjoyed the vibe. I enjoyed the vibe after 9/11, and as my mate Sebastian Junger pointed out, there were no, I think, little or no mass shootings for 2 years after 9/11, which is a really interesting fact. Wandering around trying to help out around Grenfell, after that horror, there was a beautiful feeling on the streets, and it's like the class system that is still very, very strong in Britain just seemed to, certainly in those streets, which are the extremes of unbelievable wealth and unbelievable poverty, a lot of those divides just for a day or two seem to collapse. And there is something happening here. People have never been lonelier and more separate than ever in our society, and suddenly you get something like this, which is the first time in my lifetime. 9/11 happened in America, right? Grenfell happened in Notting Hill. This is happening to all of us everywhere. And I think what happens, I mean, this is my little kind of amateur explanation of it, which was when I was in India in the late 80s, picked up a book, try and cut a long story short here, picked up a book, and it talked about this Armenian mystic called Gurdjieff, George Gurdjieff. I really got into him. It's like I was 26 years old, I was a drug addict, I was going nowhere, and his main statement was, we all live through our kind of, overly ritualized routine lifestyles. We all live in a kind of automated, we're like automatic machines, and we just cruise through life. And you go, where did that year go? Fuck, it's Christmas again. Yeah, because you were asleep for the last year. And most of us, myself included, spend the majority of our time asleep. And then something like this comes along and bang, you're suddenly much more present, right? I'm not saying that we're all going to be enlightened from this, but we're a lot more here and now. And there's beauty in that, and there's pleasure in that, in realizing that the things you might have worried about last week and the things you might be worried about in the future, which are all real, but they kind of get a little bit more background for a lot of us, and there's connectivity. And I'm hearing people, who are volunteering, helping out the NHS. I was running a Zoom group last night, and there was this big, suddenly 8 o'clock, outside in London, you could just hear everyone cheering and clapping, and I got quite teary, and one or two of the guys in the group, it was really, really, really touching. So times like this are terrible, but they're not all bad, because they force us to recognize, right, this isn't about a virus, we're all dying, we're all going to die, right? But that is something that we live, most of us, in denial of, and that helps us go to sleep. And then you just drift through life. And if you can take a moment like this and you can be just that much more alive, even if, God forbid, you get it and die, or you get hit by a bus next week or whatever, you will have lived. The worst thing for me is to live to be 99, and then you get to the end and you go, what was that all about? I'm not sure that I can even remember half of it, because you weren't really there. So if you're feeling that you're getting a strange sense of warmth, or I'm hesitating to use the word enjoyment, because it's not enjoyment, but if there's a positive feeling that you have, stay with that, because that's that invisible thread that's pulling us all together. And we've been inhabiting, like I say, a very lonely, very selfish, very inconsiderate world for a long time. And that goes against our nature. Our nature really is, we burst our banks 10,000 years ago, but our nature is to live in small tribes where, on the whole, we look out for each other. We might kick the shit out of the next tribe. I'm not saying we're all one big loving species, because we're very far from it. But our people, and suddenly when you get a pandemic like this, our people is everyone. So nice day.